Oh wait, it's on. It's recording. Okay, never mind.
That will be our wonderful picture in the beginning.
We've learned that with these live streams, the first frame of the broadcast is the poster frame. So there
You're
we
welcome.
go. How are you today, Jen?
I'm good. It's about 6 minutes left of today.
That's right. We said we're going to do this broadcast. We're going to do another one on Sunday. Well, it's technically still Sunday in Hawaii and in California for 6 more minutes.
That's right.
And today we want to talk to you about Dat Rona. That's the name of this.
Dat Rona.
Dat Rona. The coronavirus, also otherwise classified in many cases as COVID-19. We decided to speak about that a little bit today. But what we were going to do with our format and the show, the discussions that we have are to, hey Brandon Young, is to take one episode one day and speak about.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying to share this video. Anyway, we're live. Go ahead. Can't cut that out.
I'm just like. One day we'll talk about things related to the things that really matter: the Father, the spirit realm, the forces of evil, how to fight those things, how to understand those things, what to make sense of when it comes to faith, religion, relationship, and kind of some of the stuff that we touched on in our first episode. Mm-hmm. And then every other episode, we will talk more about the world, the way it works, what we see in front of us, what's really going on. And that's what tonight's episode is going to be about. So today we're going to talk a little bit about a few things. We're going to keep it much shorter and much more focused, specifically about what's really going on here. And we're not going to even try to tell you what's going on. We're going to try to share with you some of the things that we've discovered that are happening. And more than anything, try to raise a couple questions so that you can go off and, do some research yourself. Since you got all this free time, you ain't got to go to work or school. That's what we're going to do. We're going to leave a bunch of questions your way and ask you if these things add up for what we're being told. With that said, we're going to start with our purple Bible again. And
a little prayer.
And a little prayer. You pray this time.
Put me on the spot like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Father, thank you so much for today, tomorrow, and the day after that, and hopefully many, many days after that. Thank you for Facebook right now, even though sometimes, I should have my eyes closed, but even though sometimes Facebook can drive me nuts. But okay, I'm just going to be completely honest and say that, well, first off, we love you, but we pray that whoever sees this video with ears to hear and eyes to see will be able to get this message, and you be the one that sort out the truth and take out any deception. Just be with us today so that we can get our words to flow and have us be able to deliver your message. And yeah, just be with us. And in the name of your son Yeshua, we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, here we go.
See?
So I'm gonna read Psalm 91. I think it's quite appropriate because right now fear is on the horizon. A lot of people are incredibly worried. So before we get into any other discussions about what may or may not be going on, we're gonna just start by acknowledging where protection really comes from. Because I said this yesterday. You can have food, diapers, water, toilet paper. You can be stacked with a bunker like in the latest I don't know, what was that movie series called with the aliens? I forget. Anyway, some apocalypse movie. I'm blanking on the name. And
I
none
don't
of
know,
that.
but keep going because the baby is, yeah.
Awake.
We have a
again.
baby, so if you saw the first episode, I may be in and out of the city.
All right. Anywho, you can be stacked, you can be stocked. None of it really is going to matter if the true protection is not in place for you, because you either don't realize it or because you've been behaving, operating in a way that doesn't qualify you for this protection. But that's another day, another topic. Right now, let's just read Psalm 91. And I'm going to be reading from this Bible, the Hallelujah Scriptures. This is a unique translation in that it does away with a lot of the pagan terms and words that have come to be English words that have been derived from Greek or Hellenistic or Roman pagan origins. And it reestablishes a lot of Hebrew origins. Camilla, hello. Asia, hello. So we're going to read this verse, and then we're going to get into some coronavirus stuff, because there's a few things we know about what's going on that I think you might find interesting. So, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, who abides under the shadow of El Shaddai, he is saying of Yahweh, my refuge and my stronghold, my Elohim in whom I trust. For he delivers you from the snare of the trapper, from the destructive pestilence. He covers you with his feathers, and under his wings you take refuge. His truth is a shield and armor. You are not afraid of the dread by night, of the arrow that flies by day, of the pestilence that walks in darkness, of the destruction that ravages at midday. 1,000 fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it does not come near you. Only with your eyes you look on and see the reward of the wicked. Because you have made Yahweh my refuge, the Most High, your dwelling place, no evil befalls you, and a plague does not come near your tent. Interesting if we're quarantined to our tents. And the plague does not come near your tent, for he commands his messengers concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. They bear you up in their hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You tread upon the lion and the cobra. Young lion and serpent you trample underfoot. Because he clings to me in love, therefore I deliver him. I exalt him, because he has known my name. When he calls me, I answer him. I am with him in distress. I deliver him and esteem him, and with long life I satisfy him and show him my deliverance. Those last 4 or 5 verses were obviously spoken from the perspective of Yahweh. But I find this very interesting, verses 10 and 11. And no evil befalls you, and a plague does not come near your tent. For he commands his messengers, his angels, concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. They bear you up in your hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. And, there's a lot of opinion about the source of disease and what causes it, and we're not going to get into all that, but certain extra biblical books, meaning books that was in the Bible that somebody decided shouldn't be there anymore, speak about a spiritual authority at the subatomic level that really is the deciding factor as to whether or not you actually come down with the disease or not, considering that the pathogens for these diseases are basically in your body and immune system pretty much all the time. You just deal with it for the most part. But again, different topic for a different day. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what's really going on. I have a piece of paper here because I told myself, in fact, I'm going to put you on blast, Mama. I told my mama, said, I watched your podcast, baby. It was so nice. But you need to stick to the topic. She's right.
I was trying to keep it there, but I also got off topic, so.
So I wrote a piece of paper down. I'll try to stick to the piece of paper. We'll see. Jeffrey, what's going on? Adrian, how are you? Okay.
Asia.
So
Camilla.
So when I first found out about this, I was traveling to
Adrian, Jeffrey.
Texas on a video shoot last week or the week before. Week before, I guess it is now. And I found out about. I found out through a friend of mine who has some connections to military that that Los Angeles was about to go into a state of emergency, and this was right when I landed in Texas.
LA County, yeah.
LA County, yeah.
Yeah.
And this was right for I have a 5-month-old, it's 5 months today. Never left her since she's been born. And right the second, all right, baby, I'll be back in 3 days. The second I leave this baby, LA goes into a state of emergency. So of course I'm not freaking out, but I'm not freaking out. And we begin the conversation of investigating, okay, what's really happening here? Because Jen and I, we never watch the news. We don't have a cable subscription. We have a subscription to Netflix, HBO Go that we borrow, and Apple TV Plus. Was still on trial. So we barely watch the shows on those networks, but we never watch television because we work in television. That is all nonsense. If we have friends who are on shows, we'll watch those specific shows, mostly to support the story and the craft of our colleagues. Mm-hmm. But we know the deal. You know, it's TV. TV is TV, and when you work in it, you kind of like you're over it. And so the question began to arise for us. Okay, what's really going on here? How do we get to the bottom of this? It has been hello. It has been such a tremendous reorganization of a lot of information. It became aware to me through an individual who is extremely well connected. I'm going to pretty much redact the names. I'm not going to mention names ever. Mention names. Because I'm not trying to get none of these people in trouble, because in some cases they're talking to me off the record, meaning I'm not supposed to be telling you what I'm telling you, but this is what I want you to know. And I don't want anybody to have to suffer any adverse consequences for that, because I appreciate them doing that. So the first thing that I realized when I began to understand that there were systems at play here. So you've got the mainstream. When I say mainstream, what I mean is when you turn that television on, when you go to see a newspaper, let me back up. When I say mainstream, I'm really talking about news that comes via one of 6 companies. There's 6 companies. I used to know them by heart. I can try to rattle them off. VVND, AOL Time Warner, News Corp. Wait, I should do it like this. VVND, AOL Time Warner, News Corp, NBC Universal, Disney, ABC, and I'm blanking. I have to go. I'll do more research and I'll get back to you. But there's 6 companies. They own every movie studio, every TV network, every radio network, every newspaper print company, every magazine print company, a lot of your podcasts, all your book publishing companies, 6 CEOs basically. And anything that comes through those channels has their spin on it. Now, that's a large majority of information, and you know, like I said before, deception doesn't work off complete lies. So, you know, a lot of truth is mixed in. I'm not going to sit here and say everything you'd ever possibly hear on a news is a complete farce. But what I am saying is that every narrative that is being woven with information on those sources is for some other person's agenda other than telling you the truth. Because this is a for-profit company. None of the CEOs, the billionaires that own those companies care about you. They don't know who you are. They don't care about me. I do work for them, and I know people who film TV shows for them, and they don't even care about those people. So they definitely don't care about you. And we understand that, and so we don't trust them. You know, it's like okay. It's like we're not even mad. It's like y'all be greedy, and we'll be okay. We'll spend for ourselves, and this is the world that we live in. So, and the question of what's really going on, I think the first thing that needs to be understood is that every number that you've ever heard about how many deaths coronavirus has triggered up to this point, how many what demographic of people tend to be dying or tend to be safe or not dying from this particular disease, how long it takes to catch it, how contagious you are, what your symptoms, all of these things are coming from mainstream news sources. None of us I don't own a laboratory testing kit to test to see if you or me are positive for COVID-19. I rely on the people who got the test to accurately report what's happening. And if you watch any of what the hospitals and local healthcare officials at the local level are saying, it's a cluster of information, because nobody has, different pockets of the country and the world have been given different access to tests at different times. I was in Texas last week eating breakfast with my colleague who I was there filming with, and on the TV behind me, they're like, oh, the state of Texas has just received its first tests, to begin rolling out tests for COVID-19. Meanwhile, in Seattle, there's already confirmed cases. So it's like different pockets of the country got the tests at different times. There's all this rigmarole with the president refusing tests from the World Health Organization, and, signing contracts for tests from private companies that he has stocks and shares in, which I haven't investigated, but wouldn't surprise me if he did. So I'm not even here to speculate. I'm just here to really raise questions and point out a few things that get you to go, that doesn't add up. Because if you can do that, then you can be on the way to making the best decision for your family and for your friends and your community on how to protect yourself, protect them, and help people. Because that's part of why we're even doing this, because we want people to find help in this whole situation. The other thing when I began taking this situation a bit more seriously, which started with me understanding that the shipping ports have closed and have halted, and this was about 2 weeks ago now. I saw a video of a lady who was at the shipping port. I'll post that on my Facebook, or for anybody who wants that video, just message me and I'll send you the link directly. She's at the port in Long Beach, which happens to be the largest shipping port in the country. Not the only one, but definitely the biggest one. There's a huge one in Miami, there's a huge one in New Jersey, there's a huge one in Seattle. At the time, I had only seen the one in Long Beach, completely halted. Video of nobody, no cargo coming in, and almost all the cans, the shipping containers that usually come off of ships from China and other places in the East to dock in Long Beach and then to get distributed via 18-wheelers out to the distribution centers that then deliver them to the stores. It was halted, it was stopped. And 3 or 4 days later, I saw that the same was true for the port in Washington State, or Seattle, I believe, and the same is true for the one in some city in New Jersey, I forget which one. But all that to say, I didn't know what to really think about coronavirus. All I knew was, virus or not, this is a problem, because this is everything everybody buys. All the things that are on these shelves are things people buy. I began calling friends and informing them, like, listen, hey, I'm not trying to alarm you, but you probably want to get some food and water. Like, I know people are making a run for toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and I think that that's not necessarily unwise, but I don't think it's the most efficient time to buy that type of stuff. Jen and I talked about kind of what to do. She began calling her friends and family to kind of try to inform them, and
seeing what was happening in different parts of the world. Like, half of my family lives
in Sweden.
Mm-hmm. Some live in Seattle. They're all just spread out. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And what we began doing at the time is basically telling people, and this was maybe like almost 2 weeks ago now, get some food and get some water. Now, at the time, everybody was like, okay, cool. And I started the conversations with all the people that I had phone calls with, like, hey, so I want to pick your brain on this whole coronavirus thing, get your thoughts on it. And they would always answer the question, well, or to some degree of, well, I'm not really that worried about it. I think the media is inflating it. I think they're hyping it up and they're making a big something out of nothing. I don't know why they're doing it, but I don't believe that it's as bad as people are freaking out about. And I told all of them that I agreed with them. But something began to change prior to me calling these individuals, and that was simply that a secondary problem was now fermenting. The problem of supply lack. Mm-hmm. And supply lack is being triggered by the rest of the world adjusting to this coronavirus issue quicker than the United States. She has family in Sweden. We know people with family in Italy.
People that fly, people that work in that industry.
The airline industry. We know people connected to people in Dominican Republic. We're hearing stories from the ground. Again, not the news, right? People actually there saying this is what's going on.
On the ground.
And what we were finding out was that... what we were finding out was that we were being told different things by the media. Again, I don't want to overword it. We were being told one thing by the mainstream media, and the other countries were perceiving it differently, and in a underinflated fashion. Meaning, we're told something major is happening, and they're like, "Yeah, it's not that big a deal." And then the flip started to happen within the last 2 weeks. We're being told that it's not nearly as bad as, you know, some people might think. The cures are happening and and people are getting over it. And all this is true, but when you talk to people in these respective countries, they're like, yeah, no, it's not actually getting better. In fact, it's getting worse. So the first thing I would tell you is, before you believe us or anybody that you see on TV, find out who you know who knows somebody who's overseas and talk to them. Twitter, Instagram, text message, WhatsApp. You can get the messages out. Maybe not in China, but maybe WeChat. You can get information over there. That's going to be your best bet, number one. And that's what we've done. We don't believe anything we just read online. We use our gut. We use our contacts. We use the Holy Spirit, the Ruach. We use sound judgment and discernment to come to the conclusions and make up our mind on how to best act to protect our family. So then people basically began to point out that this seems to be very much like the flu, or they would say things like, the flu has killed a lot more people than this thing has killed. And that's true. It's not an untrue statement. It's simply that the flu is like trending like this, really, on a bell curve. And coronavirus is trending like, I can't do it with the other hand. The coronavirus is going like this, and the flu is going like this. Meaning, at the time, coronavirus hadn't killed nearly as many people as the common flu. But all of the numbers, according to the officials who give these numbers out, were saying otherwise. Moreover, industries were starting to show that the projections we were being told weren't true. And that's the other thing that I've had to learn to do, is use my eyes. Use your eyes, people. Look out. Trust that people do freak out via misinformation. But when you see actual mayors shutting down restaurants and bars, and states of emergencies being declared here, there, and everywhere for the last 2 weeks, and Italy being put in a position of lockdown, and China being put in position of lockdown, and Germany closing borders, and Dominican Republic, and Sweden. And
go ahead.
No, you're fine. Sweden, and all these other countries, these are things that tell you, okay, there's something happening here. It's smoke and mirrors. Everything's a little smoke and mirrors. We get it, but it's not all smoke and mirrors. And I believe, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, America is in the process of being set up for failure. Specifically America, because of how public a brand or a exposure that this country has in the mind share of the rest of the world. So when you factor in what's happening in these other countries, and this is not what the news is saying is happening, this is what people who are in those countries or have family in those countries are saying what's happening. Then you factor in the financial markets, what the stock market is doing. There are numbers that indicate that at the moment, or at least when I last checked, the market was at a lower rate than it was in the 2008 crash. Everybody I know who trades stocks or who deals in stocks usually is of the mind, sell or buy low, sell high. These crashes and these dips are the perfect time to buy. And they wouldn't be wrong in saying that. But there's always going to be a which one of these is not like the other. There's a crescendo factor happening here that I'm trying to explain, which means several things are converging into a fever pitch at once. And that alone makes this different than a common flu. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If you can, then you begin to factor in the Baltic Dry Index. This metric, it's not a stock ticker. I don't know how to explain what the index is. It's an index, it's a measurement of the shipping that's being taken over the Baltic Sea. not the Baltic Sea. I'm sorry. Let me stop rambling about what I'm not 100,000% sure on. The Baltic Dry Index is a thing. You can open up a new tab right now and look at what it is. The numbers generally give you a good forecast as to how much commodities or raw materials like iron ore and things like that are traveling through international checkpoints. The BDI is at an all-time low, and there's people with video at the port saying they're stopped, meaning this isn't just some Bloomberg article that's over here popping off saying, well, these numbers are better, we need to watch them entry, that the markets could be. It's nothing. We're out of TV land here. We're dealing with actual people on the ports telling us their reality. Then when you factor in the Deagle, now I'm not sure if you know what Deagle, I considered trying to do a screen thing, but I don't see that. Do you see? It's not here anymore. Anywho, I have numbers. Maybe I'll pull it up on my phone just so that you can see. I'm going down the list of all the things that I have written on my piece of paper.
And right now we're on number 1. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we're on Deagle. We're on number 1.7. So there's like 7 subpoints. Before I go into that, there is a thing that I think people need to understand about our news media. And this is not a bash on any individual who works in the news, because I know a handful of them who do, and for the most part they're all really good people. I'm talking about your boss's boss, board of directors boss, investors boss, that guy. He's not pure, or she. And there is a now disclosed, or it, exactly, good point, or shim, or them, or who knows. There's a now disclosed CIA operation called Operation Mockingbird that you should be familiar with. If you've never heard of Operation Mockingbird, open up a new tab and Google it. Check it out. It's disclosed, meaning you can read about what it was. I'm sure they've redacted portions of it, but at least you can read about the general context of what that operation did, which was, I want to say, back in the 70s or maybe 60s, but in a nutshell, it installed specific CIA operatives in all of the major news media operations, allowing for the flow of information to always be managed by that one subdivision of what's not even the federal government. We're not even going to get into who owns the CIA. Look into that, right? It's not American. It's over in England.
Anyway,
what I'm going to do right now is search, because I have this on my computer, but I can't pull it up. Tell them what you think about the news while I look this up.
Really? Do you want to give me that gate?
Kind of.
Well, I'm not too fond of it. I feel like it's very sensationalized, and it feels just very fabricated. And then you look into it, and it is. It is.
Okay.
A lot of the time.
So this should work. She's right.
That was very a light version of what
that was the crystal light version of it.
That was
so I'm gonna move my phone to the close, because again, this is like production value, like 0.0. I'm kind of not even caring that it's really jacked up here. What this is showing, let me make the brightness right. What this is showing.
Oh, I don't know what it is right now.
What?
I put a tab on it. I'll tell you later.
Put a tab on it. Y'all heard that, right? Tab. What this is showing, what this is what Deagle.com is. It's a economic upturn or downturn projections company. They're independent. They're contracted out by the U.S. military, by other militaries, by the U.S. government, by other governments to basically say, give me a heads up on where things are headed in economics specifically in the next 10 years. And so they make projections that are like 10 years out. This projection was made in 2014. If you notice down here, it says population 100 million. Now that down arrow simply means it's gone down from the current population at the top right here of 327 million in the year 2017. That is the lightweightedness version. This is a little bar graph of what Deagle has projected for the year 2020, if you see. This is a population, by the way. I hope, just so that you can see what this
And of course, we are on the beginning
chart
of the year, so
exactly what this chart is really about. This is about a population projection. Now, I hope they wrong. I really do. What they're saying is that the population is going to drop from 327 million in the year 2017 to 100 million in the year 2025. And when you go and you click on the asterisks on their website to see exactly why they projected, 227 million people not being in America by the year 2025, their answer is simply, it's a host of reasons, but they project for the most part migration. That it's not even about death. They even say in their thing, we're not factoring in pandemic or plague numbers. We're factoring in everything else, from information on the World Health Organization website, the CIA website, and a handful of others. Again, this is their words, not mine. So I'm pointing out that since 2017, companies have been projecting a severe economic and population downturn in America. Why? You have to ask them. I'm just pointing it out. So this is not to convince you of anything. This is not so that you can sit here and say, well, I disagree, I agree. Okay, whatever. I didn't make these numbers up. They did. And that is just what it is. Another thing that I had pulled up on my computer that I can't show you, so I'll pull it up on my phone, is the television media. I don't know if you're familiar with the fact that the show The Simpsons, the longest running, I feel like, TV show ever, maybe not compared to some of the soap operas.
Who even is watching it anymore?
Some people watch The Simpsons.
Some people are, but it's still running. It's just there.
It is. Has in 1993, season 4, episode 21, posted a placard of Bart opening, or some worker opening a. You can't see because of the glare.
I know.
This is super
Let me
ghetto.
try.
I'll make it look better next time, you guys.
Like this.
I haven't figured out exactly how to do it right.
You gotta turn it up like that. See?
There we go. Okay. And if you notice on the screen, it's a news article of a man essentially reporting about coronavirus that has been mailed out through the mail.
You gotta turn this up a little because you can't see nothing.
You gotta turn. We're gonna get it together. We really are. We're not. We're kind of sloppy with this.
Here.
Hello, Darnell, Kent, Jesse, Renan. We'll still going. Okay. That's good.
We see it. We see it. We care about you. I just want to.
You good?
While you're talking about this.
You showed them? That's good.
Okay.
Coronavirus. The Simpsons. The Simpsons have predicted, 25 things that have come true so far. There's a book by a man named Dean Koontz. It's called Through the Darkness, or forget the specific name of it. Through the Eyes of Darkness, I believe it is. It's a book that was released in 1981 that specifically talks about a flu-like virus that they call the Wuhan 400 that spreads throughout the world in a future time that they kind of foreshadow, if you will, a scenario whereby this flu-like pandemic is the cause of a financial collapse. And this is in a book that was written in here, the Wuhan 400, predicted in 1981. You can see it's this book called The Eyes of Darkness is the name of it. Can you read that? Wuhan 400. They called this stuff Wuhan 400. It was developed in an rDNA lab outside the city of Wuhan. It's the 400th viable strain of a man-made microorganism at that research center. Now again, I didn't make this up. I ain't write that book. What are the odds that any author in the 1980s could write a book where the threat to the protagonist of that book is a bioweapon developed at a lab outside of the city of Wuhan in China called the Wuhan 400? Now again, the whole purpose of this video is to raise questions to make you go, right? Because here we are in 2020 facing this real thing. America seems to be the last country on the earth to get that this is probably more serious than we've dealt with in the past. And that sentiment, I understand it because, even myself up until about 2 weeks ago was kind of like, coronavirus, we heard it all, Ebola, Zika, swine flu, bird flu, H1N1, West Nile, we've heard it all, right? And it wasn't until I began paying attention to the news outside of the news that I started to change my mind on how I feel about some of this stuff. What are the odds that a show comes out on Netflix the day that the first cases reported in the States called Pandemic, whereby they're explaining the pandemic of, they're explaining the, dynamics of how to deal with the pandemic, pushing the solution in the hands of a mixture of government and, global government, meaning like World Health Organization. I had a little thing up there. World Health Organization / United Nations / IMF, and combined with the private sector. And that's the point that's interesting. If anybody watched the president's speech a few days ago, part of his explanation for his plan on how to solve this was to alleviate some of the burden and responsibility to private corporations. He named Google, LabCorp, there's a couple others. But in case you didn't know, that these corporations they're not for truth either. I mean, you can, don't get me started on Google, but their MO is not about the dissemination of truth for the benefit of humanity. It's about that almighty dollar. And even for the people who sit above the need for dollars, because they print dollars, it's about control. Period. That's what it is. And what I'm hoping to do today is to give you a couple different research points so that you can begin to connect some of these dots on your own. What I feel I am, what Jen is, we're puzzle piece connectors. We're not out there in laboratories figuring things out. We know we have a wide network that allows us to corroborate things that other people would just call theories. We can actually flesh these theories out and test them to know whether they're viable or not. And we use that ability to make decisions that for the most part we keep to ourselves. But in this season, we felt strongly enough to share it with you. So again, is this just another flu? I'd like to point people's attention to something I just found out about yesterday. It happened in October of last year when I was busy, with a wife who was halfway in labor for the first half of the month and with a newborn who was giving me zero sleep for the second half of the month. The newborn that's still not asleep. Hey, baby. Hey. She's smiling at me, so I'm not mad. I'm just saying it's midnight. You're supposed to be in bed already. Come on. Come here. There she goes. Whoa. Say, Daddy, I just couldn't sleep. I wanted to be on TV too. I got my TV outfit on. Hey. All right. So back in October of last year, an event happened called Event 201. I hadn't heard about it, but I did some quick research on it. And it is a thing. It really happened. What Event 201 was a mock trial of a coronavirus-like pandemic, whereby it was hosted by Johns Hopkins University, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the World Economic Forum. And other companies like Bloomberg, like the CIA, like the Chinese CIA, like the World Bank were invited to this particular simulation. And again, this happened in October of last year, about 2 months before anybody knew of any actual cases of a straight up, COVID-19 issue. And it was merely a simulation to test theories on, not theories, but practices and procedures on how we would respond to a potential pandemic related to coronavirus. It has nothing to do with the actual thing. It just happened to coincidentally take place 2 months prior. Now, again, I'm not trying to tell you how to think. I'm just trying to tell you, does that make any sense that is not connected? And we can use the word coincidence all we want. Let's not forget, however, that the word coincide It's the whole. It's like there's like more of the word coincide in the word coincidence than the rest of the letters. The two clearly coincide, and again, this is not a theory. You can decide for yourself if that happened. You can look back at events like September 11, 2001 and find out if there was a simulation training happening the morning of the crash as to whether or not how we would respond to a terrorist attack of that specific type. It has happened. It's gone on in multiple shootings and multiple bombings, but we're not here to talk about none of that stuff right now. What we're here to talk about is I fully believe you, Asia, there is no such thing as a coincidence. This is another thing we're going to try. We're going to have, while I'm talking, Jen's going to look at the comments, and then when she sees something relevant, she's going to poke in, and then I'm going to shut my trap for a second, and she's going to address these comments. But to answer your question, Brandon, yes, I've heard of Q. The girl who posted before you, Asia, was actually closely, intimately involved with QAnon and the disclosure that happened then. I have my personal thoughts on Q and what I think is really going on there, but I do acknowledge that Q puts out a ton of really relevant information that a lot of people should be aware of. So I don't hate Q, but I don't follow Q either. That being said, sure thing.
Just a tad.
So, Event 201, hosted in a way to plan for a disease that happened to just show up 2 months later, and it was totally a coincidence. So please don't actually connect the two. It's a mockery, like Asia said. Of course they're connected. Of course the very people who sponsor that test run or that mock test of how to deal with a pandemic have, I'm not saying they have to be. I should say they most likely, and by most I mean like, you know how most disinfectants say they kill 99.9% of all germs? Well, they 99.9% probably got something to do with this. All right? And it's just the way it is. I mean, again, this is our channel. We can say what we want. The one thing that I do want to make people aware of that I also just learned, and that Jennifer just mentioned that she learned, is that there's a difference between coronavirus and COVID-19. That's the first thing I think people need to understand. COVID-19 is the disease or disorder that develops as a result to exposure to the coronavirus. The human coronavirus is like an umbrella term for multiple different strains of an ever-changing. It's like the flu, it's like SARS in many ways. And the human coronavirus has been around it's nothing new. This particular strain is new. But the disease, you can see on the back of a Lysol spray can, it says kills human coronavirus, E. coli, all these other things, right? And what we're dealing with now, hey baby, she's you fascinated about this data too? You want to know? Like, all right, I'm trying to learn. Well, that's excellent. She's like, Daddy, reel it in. All right, baby, I will. What we've learned is that to begin to understand what's happening is to start to understand what a virus is to begin with. How viruses work. How do they get into your body? How do they take effect on your body? What's the difference between coronavirus and COVID-19 now that you know that they're not exactly the same thing? It's a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, like HIV and AIDS, right? You can be HIV positive but not have AIDS. AIDS is the deficiency. Human HIV literally stands for human immunovirus, I believe. That's the virus, HIV. It's positive. It's in you if you have it. AIDS is the autoimmune deficiency syndrome. That's the actual syndrome that develops once a blood cell, T cell, something count gets too high or too low. I don't know the math on AIDS specifically. Coronavirus is very similar to HIV in that regard as it compares to COVID-19. And the crux of the molecular structure at which I'm gonna get technical for 60 seconds, and then I'm gonna bring it out of the technical zone. I'll be speaking more about the technicals of it later when I learn a little bit more about it myself and have time to read it. But I got a life, I got work, I got a baby, I got a virus that's taking over everybody's attention. But when I do get more time to read on it, I've read a little bit, and from what I've come to learn, electromagnetics play a very important role in the ionic and oxidization processes that happen at the chemical level and the ionic level inside our bodies. Meaning, you can affect someone's health in a way that is averse or beneficial by introducing electromagnetic fields to their body or their environment, which disrupt the magnetic stasis of the ions that hold together cells in their body. Like if you were to take a microscope and zoom into your skin and you see your skin cells at microscopic electron microscope level, it's not glue holding them together or scaffolding or like PVC pipe or like rebar. It's magnet. It's like little electrons, protons, electrons, gluons, bosons, all these different ons that the scientific community talks about and the physics community talk about that really help balance two ions together. That's what ionic bonds are and covalent bonds. I hated chemistry, but I remember that part. And what I loved was physics, however. And physics has helped me understand that electromagnetics do play a part on the chemical structure of the elements in your body. So when you hear people talk about the connection to 5G with this virus, don't write them off as crazy. Read about it. Understand what 5G actually is. Understand that for the most part, it's the worst thing that could possibly happen to any corporation or individual because it's expensive from a corporation standpoint. We all got 4G. I'm not complaining. My internet's fast enough. How about your internet? Is it that slow at 4G that you really need 5G? Is it, if you're aware of any of the scientific data on the wavelength factor for the 5G spectrum, like the section they've carved out that they're coining 5G, you're familiar with the fact that the distance is short, doesn't penetrate walls and obstructions well, meaning you have to have more towers. So who wants to pay for those? Verizon, that seems to be broke, so they charge you more money every month and fees and hidden fees and things because they just have no money at all. T-Mobile, Sprint, everybody's bills are going like this, right? Not like that, but yet more towers are having to be put up for technology that none of us ever asked for. Did you ask for 5G?
No.
Oh, did you ask for 4G?
No.
Did you ask for 3G? Did you ask for a G? I'm just playing. So, with that said, we're not going to get into a 5G thing today. We'll talk about that a different day, especially once I read a little bit more onto the technicals of how it works. But from what I've come to understand, there is a tremendous connection with any electromagnetic radiation in your body. I mean, you hear it all the time. Don't hold the cell phone close to your face. Why do they say that? Because now, 15, 20 years after cell phones are out, they're realizing, oh, we didn't actually test this long enough to really know that this actually might cause mutations in your cells at the subatomic level because of the amount of radiation being put out from these Bluetooth headphones and these AirPods and these iPhones and things like that. 5G is simply an amplification of that. And, bring in the tinfoil hat if I'm going to sit here and try to make bets and understand what that is for this little lady. So, because she's not old enough to understand. Look at her. Look at her. I want her brain to stay as pure as it can and her decision-making abilities to stay as unadulterated as they can. And if anybody suggests to me that a for-profit corporation that does not have my best interests at heart, that every time I call up customer service, I'm ready to cuss somebody out, is going to sit here and provide me a service that I'm not asking for, that hundreds of people are shouting from the rooftop saying, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good, we don't need this is bad, to when you're dealing with people I know in North Carolina who've had actual 5G installations in the daycare centers next to where their kids go to school, and they talking about how the kids, nobody can fall asleep and they're all complaining and everybody's getting sick. This is a reality, folks. I know it sounds scary, but this is a reality. Wuhan was the first city to have 5G. If that don't sound like some coincidence.
On the same day, right? When they had the first.
Maybe. I have heard that. I'll have to go verify that. But you're right. You might be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I've heard that. And before I can say that, I'd want to check that out.
Yeah.
But we gotta wake up, man. We have to. I say, man. I'm talking to y'all, ladies and men, people, humans, fellow mankind. We have to seek the Father for the truth in all things, so that He can make us aware of the tricks that we don't see coming. How many doctors and pilots smoked cigarettes in the doctor's office? Gynecologists delivering your baby with a cigarette hanging out of their mouth in the 50s and 40s. Only 40 years later for it to come out, oh, this is really bad. We shouldn't be doing that. We got to limit smoke. There are things that happen. There are so many things, asbestos, lead paint. I can go down the list of all the things that came out, and then 25 years later we realized, oh, we didn't actually test as much as we thought.
Or even Teflon.
Teflon, that's another big one. Teflon. Go look at what's happening in West Virginia on some C8 Teflon ingredient, right?
If you have Teflon, by the way, pan,
chuck it out.
Throw it out.
This is about, what we're about right now is learning how to survive in a city and in a country and in a world where the individual is being put to the back at the behest of the corporation and at the behest of the agenda. And I don't need to go into the details about specifically what corporations or what agendas. But when you see financial markets crashing, stock prices plummeting, pensions getting eradicated in 2 or less months, when you see Italy on lockdown and travel bans being implemented, not rumors of travel bans, actual presidential announcements of travel bans, when you see store shelves emptying because 2 weeks ago the port stopped receiving things into the ports, meaning everything that goes on that shelf, there's about a 2-month offset delay between when something hits the port and when it hits your store shelf. When you see those things dwindling, and when you see schools closing and left and right, don't stand up with it. You see 5-month-olds doing the Millie Wop and drumming. Crazy time. When you see all of these things, like I just got a text earlier tonight, the mayor of LA just basically asked all restaurants and bars to close. We are past theory at this point, people. We are into a new territory that has never before happened, and some of us have been given the discernment and the spiritual awareness to see the writing on the wall. This has nothing to do with our smarts.
No.
This has nothing to do with we better than you and we know better. This is a plea to say, please do not trust your government. Do not trust your CDC. Understand that, the people on the ground are going to be following orders and in theory doing the best that they think that they know to help you. But from a corporate pyramid top-down structure, it is not designed to help you. So what you have to do is get smart, get autonomous, get quiet, get on your knees and pray. Ask the Father to educate you on how to help yourself, how to help others, how to manage fear, right? How to mitigate fear and manage, how to draw the fine line between preparation and fear. There is a fine line between that. How to make decisions before your officials give you the go-ahead to make those decisions, considering that this disease manifests well after. People don't catch it and start coughing 8 minutes after they catch it. It's more like 8 days or 8 weeks in some cases. So considering that is the reality, you have to treat this as if it's worse and hope that it's not as bad. Mm-hmm. Hand sanitizer is not it. An immune system that's healthy enough to beat it is it, because the crux of the matter is what's really triggering this problem in people is a influx of a state of free radicals in your body due to a whole host of factors. I'm not saying the virus is not real. I'm simply saying the uptake of the virus is being augmented by things that are other than simply a guy in China sneaking out of a laboratory with some stuff that happened to be written about in a book 40 years ago.
Ate a bat and sneezed.
Right, exactly. Ate a bat and then sneezed. The other thing that's evident is that the news keeps telling you something different every week. They said, oh, it's not that big a deal. It only affects old people. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, actually, everybody's going to be affected.
Talking out of both sides of their mouth.
Well, you're right. Talking out of both sides of their mouth, but really not even knowing what the heck. The people that you see on TV show up, go watch the movie If you have HBO, watch the show Newsroom. If you have Apple TV Plus, watch the show The Morning Show. Both of those shows give you a really good glimpse of how news works. It's like people like actors and who like, okay, what am I saying? 5, 4, 3. Okay, great. Good evening, folks. They're reading. And they're trusting that what they're reading that was typed by the intern sitting back on the desk computer is accurate and approved by the editor and the showrunner of that show and vouched for by the fact checkers that happen to work in that particular division of the media, all under the auspices of a network chief that will say yay or nay. We ain't talking about this or only talk about this. And that's the way it works. And we know people who used to work at these organizations who have left because of the lack of transparency. So this is not our opinion on this stuff. We are puzzle piece putter-togethers. We are taking the pieces of the puzzle that we've received from other people in other places
that line up together.
And we're fusing them together to help you and to help us, but also to help you, but to help us too, because we need help, right? Anywho, we're not going to belabor this. We're already at 55 minutes. We're going to keep it right at an hour.
Smart. That's about 5 more minutes.
This says, okay. So again, is this just another flu or are we dealing with something different? Now, I already know the answer to that, but I'm posing this in a hypothetical question because I want you to ask yourself that. And I want you to take tomorrow afternoon for those families that have off of work and sit, and tomorrow morning, if you pray, if you don't believe in prayer, consider trying it. If you do believe in the power of prayer, use that power and ask the Father, what?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, finish your sentence. I'll say after.
Ask the Father, what do we need to do? What do we need to know? How can we be okay in this season coming? Because I've already been alerted by people who we know, who I ain't gonna name, who are privy to the fact that the Stafford Act is about to be invoked in 48 to 72 hours, which is what it was supposed to mean. That this was posted earlier today. If you don't know what the Stafford Act is, you should look that up too. I didn't know what it was. I said Command T, Stafford Act, enter, and I spent 10 minutes reading about what it was. Then I know. Now I know. The Stafford Act is, in a nutshell, the ability for the president to invoke a federal emergency, basically FEMA, to kick into action. We know people who work for FEMA. They telling us we hear rumblings about the same thing. So again, this is not conjecture at this point. This is a 2-week quarantine possibility. I'll say alleged possibility, according to some people who probably wasn't even supposed to say what they said, about what will go down possibly in 48 to 72 hours. Now, if I'm wrong about this, I will be the first to be like, yo, I was totally wrong. And I'm very happy about that because I don't want to go into quarantine. I don't want to go into lockdown. I spoke with I have a colleague who has a family member in Italy, and the situation there has changed in the last 3 to 4 days from his perspective on how okay things are to how less than okay things are. Mm-hmm. And again, I hope everything's okay for everybody. I really do hope this blows over like a bad joke, but I don't think that it will. It doesn't look like it will. And I'm preparing as if it won't, because if I don't, then she's struggling. And her. Mm-hmm. But her. And I don't want her to struggle. But go ahead, baby.
I was going to say, so, in a sense, the fact that so many people are losing their jobs right now, and because of everything that's going on, is sort of a baruch, or beracha, which is blessing in Hebrew. Because now you have the time to look and to read about what's going on. So take it as a blessing instead.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff going on. And when you're busy doing things, you don't have the time to sit down and really look into it. So this is, I think, even the Father is like, look, I'm giving you an opportunity to look at this. And to not worry, of course.
So your whole situation shut.
We're not trying to scare you.
At all.
But it's simply giving you an awareness of the things that we have come to find out. And I think it's very timely that we recently released a song that's
called No Need to
No
Worry.
Need to Worry.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're trying to put all our trust in the Father above, because things are not, you know, happening in a way that it's been happening before. Things are different. This is a different thing.
This is a different thing, right? And again, we're at the 59-minute and 58-second mark.
Oh,
So we're
got
about
it.
to wrap it on up. But
Yeah.
this is how you know it's different. I saw this earlier and I shared it with my mom, and now I'm going back to my text messages because I can't pull it up on my computer.
Oh, yeah.
When the CEO, well, you might have heard in the news that Bill Gates just stepped down from Microsoft. He's been gone from Microsoft as the CEO, but he's been like the chairman or whatever for a while. Meanwhile, when he's running, you know, coronavirus simulations through his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but and while still at Microsoft, but just recently he steps down from Microsoft. The CEO of Disney, that's one of the big six, Disney. He steps down. MasterCard, LinkedIn, Netflix, Uber Eats, Salesforce, MGM, Match.com, Hulu, IBM, and others, including, I just heard today, the Queen of England. She steps away from Buckingham Palace amid fears of coronavirus. When all them CEOs are going, yeah, we're stepping down at the same time, ask yourself why. Don't settle at going, that's pretty crazy. Like, no, really ask yourself.
Coincidence.
Right, really ask yourself why, because the answer to that question might just give you enough juice in your gut to get your butt in action and get protection in place and provision in place up to a point. Now, again, the Father is the one who truly ultimately provides. And like Brandon explained here, God has not given us a spirit of fear. Yahweh is not about fear. That is not the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, gentleness, goodness, meekness, self-control. Those are the fruits of the true Ruach. Fear, worry, those are the fruits of the adversary. And we're not here to promote that. But I don't look scared. You don't see me looking bugged out, do you? And I know all this information and a lot more that I'm not saying. And the reason that I don't feel such a scare is because I know that the Father is bigger than all this. And I'll leave you with it. We'll leave you with that.
Yeah,
with the fact that the Father is bigger than all this. And his hand is over this whole situation. Like, if you've seen the album cover to Jen's song, it's a perfect metaphor for what's really going on. That hand has got you. It's very... It's bigger. He's bigger than all of this. But in his sovereignty and in his righteousness, he is just. And a just God, a just Elohim, corrects the error and the folly of those he's perfecting. So if your spirit inside has been rumbling to find truth or to kind of figure out what's going on, tomorrow or the next time we hop back on this, we're going to talk more about a spiritual thing. We're going to literally alternate. Every time we'll talk about spiritual stuff, we'll talk about earth stuff, we'll talk about spiritual stuff. So I just want to encourage everybody. I want to tell you that this might be crazy. According to people we heard, Stafford Act's about to be enacted for a 2-week quarantine. I kind of have a hunch it's going to be longer than that. It's going to start off as a 2-week thing and then go longer. I did hear somebody tell me that Seattle, Washington is kind of like the test model for a lot of what's going on in the rest of the world. And if you pay attention to what's happening in Seattle, it's a lot more dire there than it is in the other parts of the country. So maybe pay attention to that a little. But you do not need to worry so long as you acknowledge who really protects. And the second you humble yourself and beseech and seek that protection in truth, operating under his will and his Torah, his instruction, he's got you. He's got you. Cut the pagan practices, figure out what's tradition and what's truth, and slice a line down the middle of the two and push toward truth, and your behind will be safe. And your baby will be safe, and your wife will be safe, and your own body will be safe. And with that, we say, Hejdå! That's Swedish for peace. Bye. Hope y'all have a good time. Staying virus free. All right. In fact, before we end this, let's take a minimum comment. a little bad too. Hello, love you guys, and one for the baby bird. Bird is she'd actually sleep. This baby bird don't want to sleep, but the rest of their sleep. Hey, shalom. If to mockery toward all, totally right, Asia. There's no. Brandon Young. Yes, I've heard of Q. Absolutely, I've heard of him. And QAnon, for those who don't know, is a online whistleblower, anonymous whistleblower. A lot of truth, but long and short of it, Q is CIA. So it's all about like good cop, bad coping the whole world. Yeah. Being the bad cop just long enough so that the good cop can come through and tell you some stuff about the bad cop, and then you can believe that, and then you'll buy into everything that they're saying, and then you'll be in a bad spot because of that. Gutierrez, I was just going to ask I was going to ask your thoughts on the great question. I'm going to make a separate video specific about 5G. But we will get more into why that's an issue, what 5G is, the difference between the 5GHz, 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi spectrum, and what the 5G cellular wideband spectrum, I believe it's called, is, and why that matters to you, what this whole concept of the Internet of Things is, and how that is going to factor into things going forward, and then we'll dedicate a whole show to that. Brandon Young, you're fighting the spirit of fear. Continue to educate. I shared your video. Thank you so much, Brandon. For sure. Jeremy Rose said the same thing about the 2-week quarantine to 3 weeks. Jeremy, you're right. If I had to put a number out, I'd say 6 to 7, probably 8.
I would say maybe even months.
Maybe I would say 2 to 3 months, but again, that's a hunch, and that's really on the higher end of things, and that's purely because I see America being made an example of. So it's almost like the quarantine will last longer than it needs to, just so that people freak out even more, and it can be a bigger sitting. And worry, I believe quarantine will happen. It's going to get bad here in Seattle. And I think you're in Seattle, so you can probably vouch for the rest of us better. I just heard that Kirkland is going through it. The hospital system in Kirkland, Washington, is like getting people's elbow knocked on it. But I'm committing to really being responsible with what I share, and really telling you when it's like conjecture and when it's proven.
Right.
And so together, Jennifer and I will do a wonderful job at that. And the little baby will just chew on whatever she can get her hands on. That's fine. I hope you guys have a good evening.
Before you stop, I think that we should pray.
Go for it.
No, but you do it, because I'll conclude this first. In the beginning there, the Father knows what I want, so hopefully. Anyway, go ahead.
Dear God, do it! Amen.
You're great.
Okay, I'll pray. Father in heaven, my heavenly Father, Yahweh, thank you so much for this Sunday, this first day of the week. May you reach out and connect and comfort those of your sheep who are yours in a way that is unprecedented, so that we feel unprecedented levels of comfort amidst unprecedented levels of pestilence and plague. Will you keep all of us healthy? Will you give our immune systems the tools that it needs to fight off the human coronavirus that it regularly fights off, that happens to be of a different strain? And will you allow for us to be able to be helpful for others who might be in a bad spot through fear or through illness? Will you help our children stay healthy and stay happy and really have no need to worry? And I believe that you will, but I ask this formally on Facebook so that everybody who hears the sound of my voice can get the same provision. Joshua just joined, and I know Josh will join with me in that prayer. And we thank you for these things, Father. And it's in your beautiful, marvelous Son, Yeshua's name, we pray.
Amen.
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 All right, everybody. Kelly, we love you too.
Love
We'll
you too,
be back
Kelly.
next time. Tell us what y'all want us to talk about, because that's what we want to know. Leave comments. Even after the live streams ended, we thought about bringing the guitar out and singing some songs and stuff today. We don't know. We haven't rehearsed anything. I'm rusty.
We're just swinging
we
this.
just got a baby. We ain't got no time for all that stuff. Ain't nobody got time for that. Oh, wait. It's still going.
Oh.
I thought I hit end. We're keeping you
tend
on
to do
your
that, babe. When I start talking, you're like, okay, and end.
Well,
it's okay.
do I? No, I'm just playing. All right, you guys have a good